here to analyze the game between AlPearson and MateMaster, which was played in the Team4545 League on ICC. It was played in round 6, the team event number 58, and was selected Game of the Week. Interesting game, and a lot of the things I talk about in these league games comes true here. The main thing I'd like to repeat is the number one reason why people lose games on Team4545 League is because they play too quickly. That's the number one reason. The next reason is because they don't develop. And in this case, Black just plays this game way too fast. Way too fast. And it should have cost them the game. White was winning. And then at a point when White didn't take a draw, White made a critical error, and Black was winning. But Black didn't see it because he was moving too quick. And finally the game should have been a draw. They played on and on and on, and eventually White blundered and Black won. So in this case, moving quick was rewarded. Now I don't recommend moving too quick. Now before I start the game, let's basically talk about time. There's a thing called E-time in when you play with an increment. Basically, you take the total of minutes and 2/3 the increment, and you add them together. Now 45 plus 30 is 75. So in effect, the average game lasts about 40 moves. So you're just getting under 2 minutes a move. Now this is a quicker time control than you will find in a real life tournament game. Usually you'll get time control like 40 moves in 2 hours, and then maybe sudden death in 2, or sudden death in an hour, which will give you about close to 3 minutes a move. Okay, that's a little different story for the serious player. But even there, if the people that are playing 45-45, which is not generally realistic time control based on the real world, and go to play real world chess in these longer time controls, and if you bring these bad habits of moving too quickly, you're going to get real discouraged because your opponent's going to take his time and he's going to thump you one. Okay, you got to slow down, especially here in Team 45 League, because this is a team event. You know, if you lose the game because you're moving too quick, you know, you lost, but you're also affecting your teammates. So somehow the word's got to get spread. Maybe these videos will help spread that. I don't know. But let's go ahead and have a look, okay? The game essentially is even most of the way. So Nimzo-Indian, and one of the purposes of Queen C2, and I'm going to talk about in a minute, is so that it can recapture the knight on C3 with the queen, not the pawn. Yet White's going to end up taking with the pawn, and we'll see why. And all the various lines, possible sublines, are beyond the scope of this video. But Black tries an interesting approach. He tries to pressure C4, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Here's the critical point. Now, what White should do is just take with the queen. Okay, he's got the bishop pair, and then they play chess. But White takes with the pawn. And now Black employs a strategy to gang up on C4. Now, a lot of times in the sameness variation, which is for A3, not Queen C2, and then the bishop takes, Black, in some variations, Black will employ a strategy. This bishop will get to A6. This knight will find its way to A5, and the queen, by way of D7, will go to A4, and there's all kinds of pressure on C4. And in this case, Black starts doing some of that strategy, which White could have avoided had he taken with the queen. And we'll talk about that when we get there as to what happens. Okay, and that's this. I think this bishop's got a good pin right here, and we're going to talk about that pin in a few moves. Okay, this is an interesting choice. I don't think it's the right choice. I think it should give Black a better prospects. And let's talk about what White could do. Well, White could put his queen on A4, but that kind of puts the queen on the side of the board, okay? And basically, 3 pieces would be in a row there, and White will have basically given up 3 points, okay? Because you've sent 6 points. Black sent 6 points off to the side, and White sent 9 points, and Black will be up 3 points everywhere else. Does that make sense? Just trying to say you're putting pieces out of play, and they're all tying each other up. And then the bishop on D3 is centralized, but it's also tied down. White could play Queen E2, and he might try to consider maybe a plan of E4, E5, and then Queen E4. You know, then you're getting, you know, Black of course has resources, but it's a plan. Or White could maybe, come on mouse, White could maybe play Knight D2 to secure that pawn. and the queen on c2 is keeping the black queen out of a4, as I was talking about earlier. That's the square that black would like to put his queen if he wants to harass that c4 pawn. And each one's an interesting strategy. White comes up with a remedy that I think black could have punished strategically, and I'll get to it in just a moment. Okay, he takes, and then white gets to these double pawns. Now, what this does is it gives black all these potential outposts in this position. C6, C4, and E4. Black's got some ideas here. Now, what black plays is, I think, a mistake. Strategically, he had better. Let's back it up. What I think is a good move here is just stop and gain a tempo. Get the queen developed and attack the pawn. Now, white needs to deal with it. Now, white can deal with it in a lot of ways. I'm not sure what the best way is. He might play queen d4. Let's just try it for the sake of argument. Now, I think a good follow-up is break that pin, g4, g5. Now, you have to watch the c7 pawn, okay? And a very interesting strategy that I was playing with for black is to play knight e8. Okay, this battens down the hatches on c7, and the idea, what black wants to play is f4 or f5, and at the right moment try to get the knight into e4. It takes a little maneuvering. You got to at some point relieve the pressure on c7, but it's a strategy. It's something to sit down for black to sit down and try to sort this out. Because white's got this weakness, and these two weak pawns. Just leave them there. Don't let him get rid of one of the weaknesses. I think probably what black was worried about was the fact that he had this backward pawn on the open file. But you know, it can be dealt with too. If you reverse the move order and play g5 first, the queen can't necessarily go to c5. Well, it can, but the c pawn might fall. You know, another way to do it is just punt with rook c7. Okay, it leaves a7 weak, a potential weakness. Maybe if the knight's driven away, we can get down to b7 and pressure it. But again, I think black should be trying to look for some outposts for his knights and remaneuvering the knight in some way, shape, or form, so you can get f5 in, and then try to get this knight into e4. It just, you know, leaves white with some problems to solve, because if white's not careful, he can get a bad game. But anyway, it's just food for thought here. But notice that, let's look at the clocks right now. Okay, both have moved pretty quick, but black is going to keep moving quick. White's going to stop and slow down. You know, black's got more time than he started, and it's going to stay like that. So he's basically playing at 40-second move pace when he has nearly 2 minutes. But this helps white rid himself of the weakness, and he does. It gives him a new weakness on c3, but that was already a weak pawn. Okay, and now white needs to finish his development and get castled. And this looks good. Black's got a very good pawn structure nonetheless. You know, he's got outposts on c4 and e4 still. Needs to break that pin though, and so this arguably is good for white too. But but the difference is the c5 pawn isn't there, and it's not a target anymore because it's been traded off. Okay, I don't think if black plays g5 that white has enough with a sacrifice, because too much wood has been traded off. So now black gets the c4 outpost. White goes to 7th. It looks good, but black kind of gets himself in a little trouble here. He just starts shoving that a pawn, and white ends up doing quite well here. We'll see in a moment. Okay, and at this point, you know, white's taking his time sorting his way through this, but black is continuing to move quickly, and at this point now black commits what should have been the losing move. Okay, let's watch his clock. Okay, 46:43, and it goes up by 7 seconds, meaning he took 38 seconds on this move, and white now has a completely winning game. And he plays the first move correctly, and black needs to take back, but maybe it's because white's short of time, but white didn't take enough time on this move. If white simply plays bishop e7, white's winning. There's nothing black can do. If you move the rook away, the knight falls. If you allow white to win the exchange, well, you're going to lose this ending. How do you want to take back with the king? You could rook a3. You can, well, that maybe not rook a3. How about rook b3? Well, how's black going to defend this? Here, well, let's go win your knight. How about that, huh? Game over. Okay, so unfortunately, white didn't see it and didn't take enough time. Let's see. His clock went up by 14 seconds, meaning he took 31 seconds. So maybe he was nervous about the time, but white just didn't take enough time. Okay, so black regains. Now, for anyone to say that white would lose this, you'd think they're nuts, but white ends up losing this, but it becomes a draw. Black defends his pawn, and white starts shoving his pawn. But it turns out that that's just a waste here, because he's going to lose that pawn, and he's going to lose his a pawn. Okay, now this move's a waste. Should have gone to d1 and cost white a tempo. Now there goes that pawn, and a2 is still weak. Now white corrects things. Now black's a pawn up. But black is by no means winning. The game should be a draw at this point, and I'll explain why in just a moment. But now white can draw here. Just check the king, and if black stays on this side of the board, it's easy to see it's a draw. If black gets too far away, white might suddenly find a way to win this. What's black do now? Cry? How's he going to stop? How is he going to stop the mate on h8? He can give up, make a queen, and give up that pawn, but then he's down 4 pawns to 2. So, but maybe white looked at this and said, "I got 4 pawns to 2. I'm winning this." Well, white, you're not. Black's got this great piece of compensation on the board, and it's that pawn on e2. Okay, so let's go forward. King g2. Check. Oh, wait. Let's look at the time here. 52:01. 51:45. Okay, his clock went up 16 seconds, meaning black took 31 seconds on this move. Now, here he's got 51 minutes and 45 seconds, and he only took 31 seconds on the move. If black had stopped and looked at this, he would have realized he has a completely winning game now. Can you find it? Pause the video. Black to play and win. Okay, it involves removing the defender, or the overworked piece. The rook on a7 is overworked. It's guarding the rook on g7, and it's preventing the pawn on a2 from queening. So you just make a queen. Hello. What is white going to do? He's going to run out of checks this time. See, it's easy to see if rook takes. If rook takes, then king takes rook. So no matter how white does this, he's going to run out of checks. If you keep checking him, black's just going to run to the king side, right, or queen side, right? Let's try the other rook. Well, we're just going to keep running over there and run you out of checks. And if you come here and threaten mate, suddenly, black's got some resources here. Queen check. Hello. Where are you going to put the king? Let's see. Out here. Now let's see. Got to make sure we don't get mated here. How about queen here? We'll give the queen back. Voila. And suddenly black wins. Okay. So you move too quick, black. You can't do this. Okay. You're hurting yourself and your team. So black doesn't find it. He goes this way. And white disdains taking the draw, and now suddenly all these extra white pawns start falling. There goes one, there goes another. Now, white should bring his king forward. You know, you never know. It might lead to a mate, but he doesn't. He comes back. Now he goes forward. Driving him forward I don't think this is wise. Drive the king deeper into your position where he's going to assist in administering a checkmate. Now black goes for a pawn. And, you know, suddenly white looking pretty good here. You know, there's white seems like he might have some winning chances. Let's put a rook d5. Okay, I mean, just what if the threat is mate? Okay, that's the threat. Now I guess we're going to lose. Black can defend that. We're going to lose this pawn, but I don't know. It just seems like white's got chances here, but he doesn't. It's a draw, but he takes this pawn, and there goes that one. And again, it's still a draw. But white's about to commit another mistake, and that's to relieve the pressure on the back rank. Okay, this is all fine. Now here, the simple key move is to push the pawn. You've got to pass pawn, push it. Okay, it helps take away the critical square f7 from the black king. Okay, that's a square black would like to access if he can get his king out of there. The farther that pawn is along, the more likely it's going to promote. I'm not saying it's going to, but it's more likely to. You know, it's worth a shot if you're playing for a win, but he brings the king back. And here's where white makes another mistake. Now he let the black king out. So now the game is just petered into a draw. And they go back and forth. There were several repetitions. I think threefold. I didn't verify. I don't know if either one offered a draw or what, or wanted a draw. I don't know. But there were plenty of times, not necessarily in a row, where the same position occurred and the game continued. So nobody pushed the draw button at the right time. They may have pushed it at the wrong time. I don't know. White just overpresses his hand here, and check. Now here it's time for e6, but white commits the losing move. Now all of a sudden, remember how the white rooks were pressuring the black king along the 8th rank? Well, now the roles are reversed. The black rooks are pressuring the white king in the same territory. Humorous. And now white must lose a rook, and with that, there goes the game. And he's going to get mated. He gives that up and gets mated. Boom. Not a perfect game. Hopefully it has some instructional value to it. Particularly the main one being, you can't play this quick. Okay? You can't. There are some people that do play quick deliberately, try to make it the opponent's move as often as possible, but you're flirting with disaster because you're not probably not finding your best move. All right. Thanks so much for your time. Take care.